Sir Keir Starmer has said he believes Lord Mandelson should no longer sit in Parliament following those new revelations and photographs showing the peer's much deeper links to the paedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein. They said, Downing Street said, Sir Keir Starmer believes the former ambassador shouldn't be a member of the House of Lords or use the title. He's been on a leave of absence for some time now, partly caused by the fact that he had that US ambassadorial post, but he will have to make his position clear, or it be made clear for him one way or another in the coming weeks and months. This comes as the country's top civil servant has been tasked with urgently reviewing information on links between Lord Mandelson and Jeffrey Epstein while he was a government minister, which looks to have included leaking documents, leaking emails to Epstein when he himself was in power and connected to government. Talk to Andrew Marr about all of this in just a moment, where it leaves the government, where it might leave Lord Mandelson and his peerage and his place in the House of Lords. But in an interview to the BBC in January, when these new, previously unknown links to Epstein started to emerge, Lord Mandelson was pressed on whether he witnessed any wrongdoing while spending time with Epstein. Here's how he responded.
Because I was a gay man in his circle, I was kept separate from what he was doing in the sexual side of his life. I mean, he in a sense had three buckets of people in his life: the business and the financial, the political and the academic, and then what he was doing with young women. It's possible that some people crossed over, but I didn't. And I think probably the reason I was separate from the third of those is because I'm gay.
Well, later in the same interview, Lord Mandelson was asked whether he would apologise for his association with Epstein after Epstein's conviction.
I want to apologise to those women for a system that refused to hear their voices and did not give them the protection they were entitled to expect. That system gave him protection and not them. If I had known, if I was in any way complicit or culpable, of course I would apologise. But I was not culpable, I was not knowledgeable of what he was doing, and I regret and will regret to my dying day the fact that powerless women who were denied a voice, were not given the protection they were entitled to expect.
Well, Andrew joins me now. Andrew Marr, presenter of Tonight with Andrew Marr on LBC. You'll know it's Mondays to Thursdays here on LBC. Andrew, good afternoon. Thanks for joining me. Why don't we start with the Downing Street statement from 10, 15 minutes ago or so? That's a big bit of pressure now, isn't it?
It's absolutely inevitable from what we learned today, the latest revelations about Peter Mandelson. He has been almost out of the door for a very long time. This is the end of the end. It was inevitable that Keir Starmer would try to strip him of his peerage or ask him to leave the House of Lords. But Starmer's critics will say, too little, too late. You should have known, you should have taken action earlier on. So I don't think it helps the Prime Minister particularly. I don't think it helps the Labour government particularly. But it certainly doesn't help Peter Mandelson, of course.
The question of a peerage, who can remove a peerage and how?
That's very complicated. It has to go through the King. I think there has to be an Act of Parliament and all the rest of it.
When you think about, when you think about Epstein and the King.
To be honest with you, candidly, I'm not entirely sure. This all came around, if you remember, Lord Lebedev, Russian connected. There was a lot of talk about him being stripped of a peerage and kicked out of the House of Lords. And it took it was very, very hard that time. I think if the person concerned is determined to try to stay, they can make it very difficult. Now, I assume that Lord Mandelson, as he still is just about, is in the mode to do everything he can to avoid embarrassing Keir Starmer and avoid embarrassing the government. That's why he left the Labour Party last night, and therefore that he would be willing to leave the House of Lords. In the real world, he's not going to turn up there and speak and be taken seriously ever again. After the first fall over Epstein, he tried quite hard to come back. He wrote pieces for the Times newspaper, he did interviews for the BBC and elsewhere, and it was perfectly clear this was stage one of the comeback tour. That is finished, that's gone, it's never going to happen again.
So are we likely, do you think, to see a kind of speedier version of what we've seen with the former Prince Andrew, I should say, that just bit by bit by bit, the position just will not hold.
There are many things to say about Peter Mandelson, but he is a realist and he understands the world of politics and power, and he must now know that he is, as it were, leaving a top window at very, very fast speed, and that therefore it's best just to get it over and done with as quickly as possible. That's
interesting. So he's got that clarity of understanding, you think. He talked in one of those clips we played there about the 3 buckets, as he called it, of Epstein's life. Clearly, it's looking like he was enmeshed in the business and financial bit of those buckets, doesn't it?
Yes, I think that was a little bit too neat on Peter's part, frankly. For instance, we're also getting really, really alarming information about serious policy and financial leaks coming out of the British government and going straight to Epstein. We know that he was, filming and taping lots of very powerful people in very compromising positions, and we have to start to wonder whether there is a bigger picture here, whether this was not the centre of some kind of massive honey trap operation.
And there seems to have been, in some of the exchanges of emails that we've seen over the weekend, and we still, all of us, I'm sure, have to read loads more, not just leaking of emails, but personal guidance on avoiding the impact of certain British business taxes that British businesses would be expected to deal with, but not necessarily his mates via Epstein.
Absolutely. Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan, one of the most powerful bankers in the world and a very, very alpha figure himself, being advised by Peter Mandelson to be a bit menacing when he's dealing with Peter Mandelson's own colleagues. I mean, that will, a lot of jaws will be on the floor about that, and there'll be a lot of anger inside government about which side he was playing on.
So today, via the Downing Street spokesperson, Keir Starmer has made a fairly strong statement here, saying he shouldn't be in the House of Lords, understanding that the complexity of that system to actually remove the peerage itself. Does Keir Starmer, looking at the whole thing, particularly the appointment to the ambassador role, does he begin to look weak or perhaps you may think he already did look weak, for not removing him sooner or even hiring him in the first place? There are already questions around Starmer's authority and judgment, aren't there?
I think weak is an overused word in this context. I think he looks very, very badly advised and, frankly, very naive, appointing Peter Mandelson to that really crucial ambassadorship in the first place. Lots of people, if they'd been asked, would have said, don't do it. I'm sure lots of people said, don't do this. There's always another scandal with Peter. There will always be another fall from grace. It's a really dangerous thing to do. And yes, he's very well connected with all sorts of wealthy Americans. Well, we know that now. And yes, he might be a Trump whisperer, but this is a really poor appointment. It's proved a really bad appointment. Yes, he was involved in the first trade negotiations and apparently did quite well there. But if you look at Trump's body language and the way Trump talked about him, Trump himself was always clearly highly suspicious. We had a very, very well-respected, very good ambassador there beforehand, and she was pushed to one side for Peter Mandelson. The whole thing looks a complete Horlicks.
And if I can ask you, before you go, about former Prince Andrew as well, and Sarah Ferguson appears in this latest huge dump of emails, doesn't she? What about Keir Starmer's stance on that one, on that story?
Well, I think he'll be very, very cautious here because, frankly, Andrew has brought the British royal family, the monarchy, to the lowest point for a very long time indeed. I think had the king himself not acted pretty brutally, a lot of us thought he was brutal and very, very quick to judge first time round. He now looks like he was quite wise about that, because this is a big enough scandal to destroy the monarchy. Andrew has done fantastic damage to the monarchy. What's the point of a monarchy if it doesn't make us feel, as a country, a little bit better about ourselves, a little bit prouder about ourselves? If we feel demeaned and diminished by it and key members of it, then that's a matter for the entire monarchy. So I think Starmer himself stands to one side and just watches.
And on the question of giving evidence to Congress, at least, let alone whether there will be subsequent investigations by police, because one of these new allegations is that a second young woman / girl was trafficked to Prince Andrew. Again, allegations. But for two men who, one is described as having lost everything, another about to potentially lose everything in terms of honour and prestige, is there anything more that Keir Starmer can do to pressure either or both to go to Congress?
Well, he could certainly pick up the phone, I guess, to Andrew Windsor Mountbatten and Sir Peter Mandelson and say, for God's sake, answer the call, go to Congress and give evidence. This is now essential for the reputation, not just of you, but the reputation of the country itself. And I hope he does that. I think he could do that. When it comes to Andrew, I mean, this latest huge tranche of documents shows that he was much more closely and intensely involved with Epstein than he pretended. His defence up to now, in a sense, has been that when he gave that extraordinary interview to our former colleague Emily Maitlis, our current colleague as well, Emily Maitlis, he'd said all that he could possibly say. He'd been asked every question he could possibly be asked, and he'd been as candid as he could be. We now know that he was lying in part of that interview, at least, and there are many, many more questions which flow from the latest documents, and I would have thought, in all honour and decency, he has to go and answer those questions.